So as usual, I'm doing a bit of research for this video. I'm researching nationalism, and I decide to type into Google nationalism quotes. And actually, the first two quotes that come up are definitely worth sharing with you guys. The first one is from Albert Einstein. He said, "Nationalism is an infantile disease. It is the measles of mankind." Or George Orwell says, "Nationalism is power hunger tempered by self-deception." So I distinctly remember the first time I realized that nationalism was fake. So my family, I'm from Canada, my family obviously goes to Florida during Christmas break. We are flying back into Toronto from Florida, and it's a nice clear day, and I'm in the plane, and I have a window seat. And I'm looking outside, and we're flying over Lake Ontario, which separates New York State from Ontario from Toronto. And I'm looking for a line in Lake Ontario that delineates the border between the United States and Canada. And I always remember, I know it's stupid there, it's a 5-year-old logic, but I always remember thinking, where's the line? Every map I've seen, every globe I've seen, every weather report I've seen, there has been a line in Lake Ontario. But that line is fake. That line is an invention, just like nationalism. So another time that it hit me how ridiculous nationalism is and patriotism was during the Olympics. I recall during a Winter Olympics, I'm going to screw up the places here, but there was a snowboarder from upstate New York. I think the snowboarder might have been from Lake Placid. And that snowboarder was competing against a snowboarder from Vancouver. So Lake Placid from my house is about 2.5 hour, 3-hour drive. Vancouver is, I don't know, maybe a 72-hour drive, something like that. So, I mean, culturally speaking, in almost any way, even weather-wise, I'm much more aligned to the guy from Lake Placid than I am from the guy from Vancouver. He lives much more close to me. But in our world, it makes absolutely no sense that I would cheer for the guy from Lake Placid because he's from another country. Whereas the guy from Vancouver, who lives almost, half a world away from me, he's part of my country. He's part of my team. Therefore, for some reason, I should feel allegiance to this guy. It made no sense to me then, and it makes no sense to me now. So nationalism and patriotism, basically what they do, why they appeal to us, is that they are kind of weird mix of race, language, religion, and essentially culture. And it creates this kind of feeling within us, this feeling of attachment, which is, a fake feeling. It brings out our sentimentality in ways that are absolutely unbelievable. First of all, people are willing to die for this sense of sentimentality. I've met soldiers before. I've met guys who've been to war, and rarely do they know or even care what the root political causes are for that war. Instead, they go to defend their country and defend their people. I see people watch the Olympics or the World Cup, and their national anthem comes on, and they're singing. Some of them are even crying. They're so happy that their national anthem comes on. So it just goes to show you how deeply rooted and sentimental nationality and patriotism is to us. But the thing is with nationalism and patriotism is that the symbols, the songs that we associate to country are all inventions. I mean, the oldest national anthem is the British national anthem that came about in the 1740s. And the oldest national flag is the French flag that dates from the 1790s. All of these flags, anthems, pledges of allegiance, they change, they modify, they are human creations. They are not some sort of religious fact that has existed for all time, and yet we treat them as such. A flag, you treat a flag, which is a piece of cloth, super delicately. You wouldn't wipe your ass with it if you were desperate, although you would with a shirt, a sock, a hat, or anything else. But because of the ink print that looks like a flag on this piece of material, for some reason it becomes more holy than the actual piece of material that it is. So, speaking of my flag, what if I'm Canadian? What if Quebec separates tomorrow? What if New York State joins Canada tomorrow? Does my flag signify the same thing? It's like, is the symbol more important than the actual thing it represents? Because nations change all the time. Borders change. Realities change. So what is so sacred about this flag? The flag and these national symbols almost try to create the illusion of permanency in what is an ever-changing and impermanent world. Does the anthem make sense before a sporting event, which is essentially a kid's game, or before school? I'm a school teacher, and I feel like I'm making my little students line up and, pledge allegiance to their country. Why? It seems so 1940s. Can we not move ahead with the times here? We're all different. These traditions create the illusion of unity. I could have a bunch of immigrants in my class. I can have people that speak different language from different cultures, but stand up and sing the Canadian national anthem. Be proud of being Canadian, even if he's been Canadian for 7 days. I understand that some people are like, they should feel, thankful that they're here in Canada. Fine, I guess, but it's still an abstract creation. It isn't real. This all exists within our minds, and we need to identify it as such. National and patriotism equals basically that we are better than them. Everybody believes that their country is the best, so we can't all be right, So, and by the way, your nation is probably based on where you were born, and that's something you didn't even choose. So, why are we proud of our countries? Because they're the best. I love my country. Yeah, but you didn't even do anything to be born there. That's like the genetic lottery. It's the lottery of birth. Why are we taking pride in things we had no hand in actually accomplishing? People believe that their government loves them for some reason, and I think this is absolutely delusional. The government loves that you pay taxes and that you keep that power structure intact. They don't actually love you. They actually see you more and more as being a threat, as Bill C-51 in Canada and the Patriot Act and all of these draconian laws that they snoop on us and they suspect us of terrorism all the time. I don't see that they actually love us, but people have this illusion or delusion that, oh no, the president loves me and they're out to protect me and I love my government. Are you kidding, man? You need to reassess your relationship with your government if you feel in any way like that. Nationalism and patriotism is hailed as truth, but it needs to constantly be shoved down our throats. If it was so true, it wouldn't need to be promoted constantly to us. The American government wouldn't have to pay off the National Football League to do these big shows of nationalism and patriotism before their sporting event. See, the countries actually pay to shove that propaganda down our throat, which shows to me that if they didn't do that, then we wouldn't actually subscribe to what is essentially this fanciful religion of, oh, I love my nation, nationality makes sense. Why do we take pride in our country of birth when we had no choice in being born there? Is because nationalism is a form of tribalism. We see it as us versus them. But in our world, communication technologies are basically making us realize that we are all one and the same. We are all one people. We all share the same basic morality, the same basic needs. Communication will make nationalism and patriotism less relevant over time. Now, we are all human beings. Our primary concern is the survival of the human race, the preservation of the earth, and we need to come to terms with the fact, again, that we are all human and that we are essentially all the same. Now, in a humanist worldview, the UN Declaration of Human Rights should supersede, should be at the forefront of all national laws. It should be more important. And of course, this won't happen in my lifetime, but it is the goal that we should go for because the Declaration is supposed to be morality on a global scale. Post-nationalism does not mean a corporate world. It could also mean a humanist world. If we adopt the right identity, that we are all equal human beings in the end, and that nationality is a figment of our imagination, we could get there someday.